one today. Our special guest brought some Henny Penny, baby. Henny Penny. Too bad you can't taste it. Henny Penny. We got a new one.
Okay, let's jot that down. I want to hear that. I want to taste a little bit of that. For those that don't know, Makeda is on the road, so I'm not in town. And so, we like to do these kind of live remotes. I'm out in these Orlando streets, and, we're going to keep our show moving along as planned. Now we have our little M&M segment.
M&M, yep.
I will allow Melanie to start things off. What do you have going on now?
Okay, so we're changing up the flow a little bit. We normally do hot topics first, but today we're going to bring our guests into our hot topics because we got a lot of tea, baby. So, M&M moment. So, what's been going on with the Melanie part of the M? Well, I have been busy in Wakanda world, pushing out mugs for the Black Panther movement, and teaching and tutoring, and trying to wrap my mind around the fact that they want us to carry guns. Yeah.
Awesome.
What about you?
Well, first off, if you can imagine, right now I just finished officially 2 miles. I said I wanted to get myself back on track with my health. That kind of ties into the Makeda piece because this past week I was in Tallahassee. Well, 2 things. I was in Tallahassee last week on behalf of our lovely Greek organization, our sorority, Alpha, Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, for AKA Day at the Capitol. It was my very first one. I was
awesome.
really excited. I met with a couple of our lawmakers in the state of Florida, really focusing on some of our targets and how the organization, for us in Miami, how we can help move some of our agendas forward. At the same time, while I was in the process of leaving, I had to go back to Tallahassee on Tuesday because, like most of our listeners know, I am a breast cancer survivor twice, and I'm representing Susan G. Komen as well as the American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network. And so the program that I was able to, utilize my second time was the Mary Brogan Breast and Cervical Cancer Early Prevention Program, and I had to go to Tallahassee to basically lobby for funding. Every year they need about 2.2. I think this year they're looking to bring. They're looking to for us to ask for about $2.5 million.
Wow.
To fund this full annual program, and so I was one of 2 survivors that utilized this program and was there to be like the face to share my story and to talk about the program. So I'm really excited about those efforts that I was able to, lend my voice, share my story, and hopefully I think I feel very confident that program will get the funding that it needs. I know that, in Tallahassee, it's a very interesting process in which they're going to go to committees and secure certain budgets, and so all those things are going to be taking place. And, again, very ecstatic that this was not necessarily my first opportunity to lobby, but this was the first opportunity that it was more of a coordinated effort and an organizing piece with one of the major breast cancer organizations in the country. So I'm very excited about that.
Well, that's awesome, girl, because I've been looking at these Marco posts. I'm like, my boo is on the move. She was in Tallahassee. She was in Tampa. She was in Orlando. I'm like, well, goodness gracious. I'm proud of you, though.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Sarah and sister. The thing is that as a part of the McClune Group, I do political consulting. So right now I'm technically still working with about 3 campaigns that, they're new candidates. They need help fundraising. They don't know how to really do it. And what I'm hoping to eventually accomplish is to have workshops, in and around the country, starting in South Florida to help get more people engaged in politics, more minorities willing to step up to the plate and run for office. But a lot of what needs to happen is for those individuals to understand what it takes. And some of it, unfortunately, right now, takes money. So how do you even get to that point? Those are kind of some things that I am in the process of working with. In the meantime, I'm actually working with candidates that are in that beginning stages of actually already running for an office, and now they have to scramble and figure out ways to raise money. So I'm pretty excited about that learning process. So
that leads us into our hot topics, because it's been a lot that's happened this week.
So much, and I think what we want to do first is introduce guests, because we want our guests to participate in this process moving on with the rest of the show.
So I'm going to give a brief little quick intro, and then I'm going to let them take it from there. But we have some super teachers in the room. We have one of which is my lovely soror, Sebrina, and I'm going to let her talk to you. And she brought her partner with her, Dr. Tameka. And I'm going first name because this is the Gurl Cave. But I'm so glad that they're here. You should see how pretty they are. They fit right into the Gurl Cave, girl. They brought their henny penny. We're treating them with first class. They got their girl what glasses. They're sipping on their girl what glasses. It's just all sparkles and pink and green up in this room.
Yes, it is.
Okay?
Love it.
So, without further ado, we have 2 lovely ladies, and I'm going to let them begin with their intro. And then before we get into what we're featuring you for, we're going to get into our hot topics.
So, hi, my name is Sebrina, and I am an educator. I've been an educator for about 15 years with Miami-Dade County Public Schools, and I also run an organization called the Teacher's Treasure Chest. And I'm here with my partner, Dr. Tameka. She doesn't like for me to call her doctor.
I like the doctor. I'm sorry.
It is
Sounds
what it
so
is,
official.
right?
Doctor.
This is formal versus informal. That's all. Well, again, good evening. My name is Dr. Tameka Hobbs. I am Assistant Professor of History and University Historian at Florida Memorial University, or HBCU, here in South Florida. Mm-hmm. And in addition to the work that I do as an author and historian, I also am a children's book publisher. I have 2 independent titles, Junebug and the Gumbo Garden and Soar. And that's what brings me in connection with Sebrina and her wonderful nonprofit. Excited to be here.
Okay, cool. All right, so we're going to get into our tea for the week or week and a half. There's been a lot going on. We have some powerful students that are making moves in South Florida right now due to a tragedy, a shooting that is worldwide news about 11 days ago, I believe. There was a massacre. Actually, it took place on Valentine's Day, and it happened at a high school here in South Florida, in the Parkland area, where there was a boy who was a former student. Actually, I think he was expelled from the school for his behavior, and he entered the school on a school day and used massive gun weaponry, I guess, and shot up the school and killed 17 students.
Exactly. So the high school is Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, and it's in Parkland, Florida. It's one of the most affluent um, areas in Florida. From what I recall, they said that that's an area where Trump won by like 18 to 20 points. Very strong Republican area, and basically, a student, which we will not name.
No, I'm not doing it.
Who had a lot of issues, was expelled from the school last year, got on the school campus, pulled the fire alarm, which there was, funny enough, there was a fire alarm drill earlier that day. So that ended up being the second fire alarm drill that they assumed was happening. And like Melanie had said before, 17 people were killed. I think 15 of those were students at the school. And, it's really a travesty. And I just want to say really quickly, who those victims are. There was Alyssa Al-Hadef, she was 14 years old. She was a soccer player and for Parkland Travel Soccer. The second was Scott Beagle. He was 35. He was the geography teacher, and he was killed trying to usher students back into the classroom. This is from CNN's report, by the way. The third victim was Martin Duke Anguiano, 14, mourned the loss of his younger brother. His younger brother, Miguel, set up a GoFundMe page to help pay for funeral costs. Nicholas Duarte, 17, he was a senior. He was killed in a shooting. He was being recruited to the University in Indianapolis swim team and would have been an incoming freshman this fall. Aaron Fife, 37, he was the assistant football coach, killed when he threw himself in front of students to protect them from oncoming bullets. He was definitely a major hero. There was Jamie Gutenberg, 14. He was a freshman. Chris Hickson, 49. Let's see. He was described, I guess he was the school's athletic director, an awesome husband, father, and American.
Wow.
Luke Hoyer, 15. The killing shocked his very close-knit family. His grandparents from South Carolina learned about the news on TV. Kara Ludwig, 14. Kara danced at the Drake School of Irish Dance in South Florida. Gina Montalto, 14. She was a member of the Winter Guard and the school's marching band. Joaquin Oliver, 17, born in Venezuela, moved to the United States when he was 3, became a naturalized citizen January of last year. Alana Petty, 14. Alana's family said she was vibrant and determined. She volunteered after Hurricane Irma hit in September. She was very much loved by her family. Meadow Polak, 18, had just been accepted to Lynn University in Boca Raton. Lots of condolences going out. Helena Ramsey, 17. The family lost an absolutely beautiful member of their family, and she would have started college next year. Alex Gacher, 14. He participated in the marching band and orchestra, playing baritone in the former and trombone in the latter. That's what Sun Sentinel reported. Carmen Shentrup, 16. She was a National Merit Scholar semifinalist. Peter Wang, 15. Peter was a member of the Junior ROTC program, and his parents owned a restaurant in West Palm Beach, Florida. And those were the victims. And I wanted to share at least a little bit of who those victims are, a little bit of where they came from. This was a travesty, and, the problem is, this year, that school shooting marked the 18th for the year. From what I understand, there's been at least 2 other shootings that's taken place beyond. And if we break it down to shootings that occurred in Florida, that was the 3rd mass shoot that took place here. Pulse nightclub, and that was 2016.
Right.
The airport shooting at Fort Lauderdale's airport, I believe also last year, and now this year, 17 victims from Parkland, which was also in Broward County, Florida. And so this is a little bit of a heavy situation. You all are educators. I'd love to get your thoughts on how you see things. A lot of what's the major topics that's been discussed. Beyond that, in this past week, obviously gun reform has been a big, heavy topic. And just on a positive note, along with that is just the sheer determination of our next generation leaders that are stepping up because they don't want to see this happen ever again.
All right.
So I'll leave this to you guys, but, let's talk about it. We definitely want to then circle into, your business and, let's, take it away, Melanie.
All right. So, as you're reading those names, I'm like getting chills because it just makes my heart heavy all over again. And I'm just speechless. Like I when I heard about it, I was just like, "Are you kidding me?" It's like unbelievable. Yeah. And then the stuff that's coming out as the days pass, that there were officers, available close by that were hiding and didn't come on the scene to help. And then I don't know. I'm gonna let y'all talk because I'm just floored by the whole situation.
So, the magnitude of the situation is bigger than we actually think. It's created a movement, and I'm very, very proud of the students that have stepped up and in the face of adversity, and they've shown their resilience and their determination in order to make change, not only within the community of Parkland, but also in the nation as a whole. Yes. And I think that all children will benefit from these initiatives that these courageous students are embarking on. I am employed, this is Sebrina speaking, I am employed in a local high school, and I am a guidance counselor. So the next day when I went to school, there were a lot of questions from some of my students, that could happen here, I'm afraid, or if are there any precautions that the school is taking? So there were some heavy questions that were asked of me, and even as an adult, I found difficult to answer because some things you can take as many precautions as necessary, but sometimes things happen when we least expect it. But I guess the goal now is to make sure that we have all angles covered in order so that this travesty does not happen. Funny thing about it was when the shooting took place, I was at work late. I was still at the school, and my coworkers and I were debriefing about the day as we normally do. And I had a few text messages from my sorority sisters in Atlanta, and they were texting me like, "Are you okay?" And they're actually educators, so they were like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And I was like texting back like, "Yeah, I'm fine. Like, what's the problem? Why are y'all asking me, am I okay?" Just out of the clear blue sky. And then I called the mother of one of my sorority sisters because she texted me too, Miss Barlow, and I was like, what's going on? Like, "Yeah, I'm okay. Are you okay?" So she said, "Yeah, there was a shooting in Florida, and we know that you live close, and we just didn't know what was going on." And I was like, "A shooting?" So once I arrived home and I really saw the scope and magnitude of what had happened, I was just floored and in awe because I was just in that Parkland community a few weeks prior to that at the Marriott at a tea for another organization that I belong to, and actually another member of the organization that I belong to, we actually had our meeting on Friday. This is Jack and Jill of America, and Jack and Jill, if you don't know, is an organization for families, and the programming with Jack and Jill is for our children. So a lot of the moms that are members of our chapter, they were really, emotional because their friends grew up with some of the students in Parkland, or either they were on the same baseball teams or basketball teams, or their parents just knew each other from the community. So it's been a trying week, and I just hope that at some point we will feel a sense of peace again, and but I really think that this has brought the community solidarity.
Yeah, I was, Sebrina and I were talking before we came in just about that, because I was interested in her perspective, being that she works in a high school, and I can only imagine, what it's like. But I have to say, a couple of things. The first, when I talk about the reaction, it's shocking, it's painful, but it's numbing. We have been through this so many times, and I think in my mind, going back to Sandy Hook, after we were willing to accept the murder of, I think, 26 students who were killed, and as a society, I just held out that, I don't think we're ever going to get to the point where we're going to change this. That lobby, that NRA lobby, is just absolutely so strong and so influential.
It's a machine, a money-making machine.
and I think, too, we're so complacent, but that's the real headline out of this, is those students. I've been so impressed by their activism and the way that they've immediately hit the ground and come out, so forcefully and pushing for change. And there's not a whole lot on the political landscape these days that gives me a whole lot of confidence, but I have to say that I was really encouraged by their activity. Although, looking through a racial lens, I'm very curious at the difference in the reaction to these student activists as opposed to Black Lives Matter activists, because they're essentially saying the same thing. That there are, problems when people die. We need to investigate. We need to make change. But, when the Black kids do it, they're rioters, they're anti-police, the whole nine. When the white kids get it, they get the Spielbergs giving money. They get George Clooney, not a little bit of money. I mean, $500,000 a pop between Spielberg, Clooney and his wife, Mama Oprah opening her wallet for them. And so it kind of raises these questions about worthy victims in this case. And I think that, the other thing I'm waiting for is how they're going to drag these police officers, right? Up until this point, when we talk about police being involved, it's been Blue Lives Matter, that they're infallible and beyond reproach. But now we see these fellows, and there's some debate there. I had a conversation earlier with someone that talked about the response, that when there's an active shooter, the folks on the ground are not supposed to go in. Instead, this person argued they're supposed to wait for backup. But I guess the argument, too, is that even after backup came, they didn't enter the building. And so it's just really multi-layered, and I can't help but think about those things and looking at how this is playing out. But I'm hopeful for change. I think we've got to have something change in this country.
It's funny that you mentioned the part about the fact that these are a different population of kids.
Very well.
I've been having this conversation this week, and as you said, Parkland is an affluent area.
Very affluent.
And I don't. Again, this is my opinion. I don't know if what I'm saying is factual. However, I know that most families in that neighborhood come from money.
They do.
And what I think a part of the reason why it's been escalated up to the powers that be to pay attention is because these are people these are teenagers whose parents have probably contributed to politicians.
Exactly.
It's a neighborhood where politicians probably live, or their families live,
or their children have attended that
exactly
school.
Their children have attended that school.
Uh-huh.
So the organized effort, the way they organize so quickly, there's money behind that.
Correct. Correct.
There's money behind that, and I'm sure phone calls were made to their buddies, their friends, their family members, and it could be that some of their family members were involved, some of the politicians' family members were involved in the shooting.
Correct.
So, unfortunately, in this world, people don't listen until it hits home.
Correct. So I want to speak to
Well,
Tameka's point.
and I want to touch on that for a quick second. When that comparison with race and what does the media deem more important than, and us coming from culturally diverse schools. I went to a predominantly African American school that had a big Caribbean population. I think we all probably came from predominantly African American schools, and we know those systems, and we've heard of these stories, maybe not to the degree that it has become nowadays, but back then, absolutely, there had been, school shootings or, someone with a gun on campus. I can recall in high school, I'm not an educator. I volunteered and have gone, and have been in the schools lately, but, I'm not an educator, and the things that I see, absolutely there's a difference. But I think, not only along, racial lines, but also engagement. Let's take a step back and look at, the tragedy that happened with, from folks in our own backyard, Trayvon Martin, and the organized effort that it took, because Sebrina was a little bit more, engaged.
Sebrina being Trayvon Martin's mom, for those of you. Let's clarify.
Yeah,
That's Sebrina with an A.
I'm sorry. Look, she's South Florida. She's from our community. I'm sorry. I did refer to her as Sebrina Martin. And so, Fulton. Sorry, Sebrina Fulton. And so, we happen to have, little situations like that because of certain circumstances, we were able to not just get local attention, but national and even international attention. Yes, that's a one-off situation, but I think what's starting to happen is that people are starting to understand that we have to be a little bit more organized. We have to continue to, blow the horns and say, look, these are things that are happening in our communities anyway, and why are we not getting those type of attention? I think some of that dialogue is starting to happen, and obviously Melanie hit it right on the head with, money and politics.
Yeah, and the fact that they were mostly all Trump supporters. And I think now they're starting to see, oh, wait a minute, now it's hitting home, and we don't have, what's he really doing? Now you want to pay attention.
Yeah.
But sorry, Sebrina had a point, and I wanted to make sure she spoke.
So I just wanted to speak to what Tameka was stating about with the racial inequality of the students. So I work in a predominantly black high school, and I was wondering, I knew that a lot of the local high schools were going to be able to protest a few days after, the incident took place. However, it just really was shocking to me that certain schools were allowed and encouraged to protest when other schools were not. So if you look at the schools that were allowed or encouraged to protest, none of them were predominantly black high schools. So I just found that, and that's just from looking on the news and speaking with my colleagues, that also work in predominantly black high schools. I know for myself, we had a quote unquote drill, and they had us at, our points where we were supposed to be, and we were kind of questioning, like, why is this abrupt drill happening? And no one told us we were getting ready to have this drill. So after the drill concluded, it was then disclosed to us that I guess at around noon, there were some walkouts that were planned. And so they wanted us in place to kind of prohibit the students from walking out. And then when I get home and I look at the news and I see where other schools, they formed hearts on their fields. One school in Palm Beach even walked from Palm Beach to Parkland, which I think was about 12 miles, with their signs and, just in support of these students. And I just found that amazing as to how our students were kind of shunned. I don't even want to say shunned, but discouraged from walking out for fear of getting hurt or, getting in trouble, when you had these other students that were allowed to kind of, voice their opinion. Because our students, they have opinions too.
Right.
And I think that if it was organized in the right way, I think our students would have shown the best, people that they are, and if they would have probably, consulted with administration, like things could have went a little different. I just think that I think our children should have had more support, especially for being able to speak out and,
Speaking of speaking out,
yes.
So I watched the town hall, and I don't know, my post, I was saying go Cameron. Cameron is my boy. I don't know if you all know who Cameron is. Cameron is the one that went toe for toe with Marco Rubio.
Correct.
My homeboy was like, he was not having it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was reading today where he's been getting death threats.
Wow.
So he had to deactivate his social media pages.
Right.
All because he pretty much put Marco Rubio on Front Street. Like, okay, so would you deny the NRA funds for this cause? Basically,
the answer was never no.
Exactly, and the answer was pretty much like, well, they support my initiatives, and it's not the other way around where I support them. They basically are funding my initiative. So it was like, I don't know, it was a bunch of baloney to me.
Yeah, and long story short, that meant no.
Exactly. It meant no. But I was in awe of the confidence, the eloquent speaking from these students. They were very passionate about what they had to say. They were not fearful at all. I was like, in one hand, I was shocked. But on the other hand, I'm like, when I think about our history, there was another movement back in the day that change happened as a result of teenagers. And that was in the 60s era when they were trying to integrate school. My mom was one of them who went to jail for trying to integrate her high school. She was one of the first black students in our high school. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times it seems teenagers are the ones that make things happen, or
young people. I mean, I think you're exactly right. I mean, during the 1960s, I mean, when you look at what happened, of course, we always talk about Montgomery and what happens in Montgomery, Alabama, with the bus boycott in 1955 and 56. But by the time, by the time you get to 1960, you have the student-led sit-in movement that escalated. Exactly. It was more of a direct confrontation. At my institution, Florida Memorial, when it was located in St. Augustine, our students led one of the first protests in March of 1960 in that city, sitting in the Woolworths counter there. It is kind of this idealism that comes with youth, but I think, it's funny when the children lead.
Yeah.
When the children lead and have the courage to speak on what's up. I don't know what that says about where we are politically, it's very difficult for us to mobilize around gun control, as I think for the Democratic Party, for people who believe like that. I don't know why we haven't been able to muster the same type of energy that people who are for guns have. But I mean, I think we need to do it. It's one of those things, and I do work with race dialogues, and sometimes when we put the advertisements out for what we're going to be doing, we showed a film that was talking about Trump and race and his campaign. We talked about a book by Carol Anderson, White Rage and the Truth of Our Racial Divide. These people the trolls come out of the woodworks. And I mean, this last one we did in Hollywood, I was like, okay, let me make sure my insurance straight, before I go in, because the reality is in this country that you can be shot anywhere doing anything.
Doing anything, yeah.
You just have to be clear about that. And I don't know why we're so comfortable in accepting that, especially when you see other Western countries like Australia who have done differently. Now you have to understand a little bit about our culture. And the way there's a lot of white anxiety, and I think it's tied directly to.
That's why they don't want to get rid of them rifles.
Yeah, I mean it's empowering. It's a way that they feel like they can maintain their dominance, and so anytime you start touching on that, it just becomes a lot. But the cowards that not only would threaten this young boy, but they said that he was even hired, that he was an actor. They call them crisis actors.
Correct.
I mean, it's the scum that is on the other side is just...
They go so low. It's ridiculous.
The depths is...
And I want to make sure you guys get to speak. And we didn't really touch on the gun subject or whatever. But I ain't care. I'm just going to say this. I ain't carrying no gun.
No.
I'm not doing it.
I've already told my husband that the day...
I said the same thing.
If and when that mandate comes down the pipeline, that I am resigning.
I said the same thing.
And retiring from Dade County Public Schools, because I will probably withdraw my child from Dade County Public Schools, because what they don't realize is that even though we are educators, we are highly degreed up, but there are some teachers with some mental illness issues. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Like, they are professionals, and I'm just really fearful.
And it's a stressful job.
Yes,
like being a teacher is not. It's not a piece of cake.
It really is. And
it's not for the faint of heart, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, for those that are not parents and are having to, basically parents teach, educate and parent, 20 to 100 and more students each and every weekday. That's a challenge and expressing itself. I mean, look, I am in and out of town, and when I come home, again, I'm not an educator, but I deal with my 3-year-old nephew, and he's a lot of energy. And that's just, that's at home. That's not doing some type of formal, like getting him calm and educate. Like, I don't think that, that most people that are not in the education system understand what type of strength.
Including our president. He doesn't have a clue.
Including our president. Doesn't have a clue. Yeah. Because if they truly had a clue, then, educators would be paid accordingly.
Okay, so I'm gonna.
That's
a whole nother show. That's a whole nother show.
Can I just say thing about
Dr. Tameka has one comment, and then we're gonna talk about what we can do for super teachers.
Yeah, and I think that when we talk about guns in schools and army teachers, we have to understand the conversation we've already been having about zero tolerance in our schools and the negative impact it's had on our children. What do you think is going to happen if some of these teachers with certain types of biases have firearms in the classroom? Right. I mean, it's just not going to be good. I don't know. It's an idiotic argument. We got to do better.
Just dumb.
Impeach.
Just dumb.
Impeach.
Yeah, I'm with that.
Impeach. We didn't even get into Mueller and what he's up to. So, but anyway. Now to more important news. Let's talk about what can be done for our super duper teachers. And so these lovely ladies are going to talk about their initiative. And we have about 3 minutes to do that. And I want y'all to tell the world. Well, about 4, but I'm I'm taking off a minute for the end so y'all can promote yourselves.
Okay.
So go ahead. You all tell us about your initiatives and what you're doing to help teachers and students.
So the name of my organization is called the Teachers Treasure Chest, and our mission it's very basic, it's very simple yet powerful. Our mission is to provide free educational supplies to first-year educators in Miami-Dade and Broward County. Specifically, we've, kind of adopted Florida Memorial University as our HBCU because I am a graduate of HBCU. I graduated from West Brown College, and I know my Brownites are listening. So, but we are raising funds to actually conduct a book drive. And so our book drive, Dr. Tameka and I, we met actually on the campus of Florida Memorial University a few months ago, and we kind of shared some ideas, and she brought the idea to me of, having a book drive, and actually reading and literacy is one of the initiatives of my organization. And it was just a perfect fit and a win-win situation for all parties that are involved. So what I do with Florida Memorial is this past year, I connected with the supervisor over internships. She connected me with some educators that received 2 treasure chests full of supplies. So the treasure chest included pens, pencils, construction paper, copy paper, glue sticks, glue.
Ooh, teachers love that stuff.
Right,
we love that stuff.
Right. So I tried to think of the 10 items that first-year teachers straight out of college, maybe have been teaching for 1 year or less, really needed. And my reasoning for doing this is because, I don't know if many of you know, but as educators, Day 1 out of college, you're expected to have your room print-rich ready, full of supplies for your students. And most teachers don't even get a paycheck.
Nope.
Actually, us in Dade County, we used to get like a 1-day paycheck, and then you had to wait like 2 weeks to get a full paycheck. So I just thought it was just really a need to assist first-year educators, especially first-year educators in HBCUs, so that they could just start their career off correct. So our book drive.
Please give them the website.
Yes.
The book drive, if anyone is interested in donating, is at tamekabradleyhobbs.com/book-drive. And once you go to the site, or you can just go to the main site, tamekabradleyhobbs.com, and you'll see the link at the top there. And I consider myself really fortunate to have met Sebrina. We were at, opening convocation. Yes. And she was standing around, and she just struck up a conversation like, I'm trying to connect with the education department. And I was like, okay, I can help you with that. But after we had some more exchange, I was like, hey, you are trying to provide materials for teachers. I happen to write children's books, and maybe we can do something together. And so what I had hoped, and just a little bit about my background, I write these books because I want children to have positive images, brown kids that look like them that they can read and relate to. So I think that's really important.
Please follow them on Facebook, Instagram, Treasure Chest, Sebrina.
Teachers
Treasure Chest. Sebrina. We're going to go on Facebook Live so we can talk a little bit more. I am Mel Sheehan, and we have Makeda Melanye, and you've been listening to Gurl. What?